The Jewish story. This week's story from the Holocaust is taken from the book Holocaust Journey, Travelling in Search of the Past, written by Martin Gilbert. The Jewish army entered Lankut on the 9th of September 1939. 13 days later, most of the Jews were expelled across the River San into Russia. Some Jews later returned. A Polish survivor of the Holocaust who came to London after the war, Charles Shane, formerly Chaim Schlamberg, told me how at the end of 1939 his parents had travelled from Lodz to Lankut, hoping to cross the Soviet border. A Jewish smuggler, a woman, offered to take us over the borders to Russia. She wanted everything she could lay our hands on, everything we had. My parents said no. Charles Shane's parents did not survive the war. Some of the Lankut Jews who had been expelled into Russia returned after several months. They found 1,000 Jews in the town who had been expelled from Krakow. A ghetto was set up and all were confined in it. On the 1st of August 1942, almost all the inmates of the ghetto were driven to the village of Pelkiny, 9 miles away, where all the elderly, the sick and the children were shot. The 50 Jews still remaining in Lankut were taken on the 17th of September 1942 to the Chenoa ghetto, where they were murdered in May 1943 in the local cemetery, together with several hundred other Jews who had been concentrated at Chenoa. The most feared Nazi official in Lankut, Joseph Kokot, was discovered in 1957 in Czechoslovakia and sent back to Poland, where he was tried, sentenced to death, and executed that same year. I leave the dining room and wander off into another, smaller dining room. In the corner is a large brass menorah, the candelabra which Jews light for the 7 nights of the festival of Hanukkah. I carry it into our room. Caroline produces a lighter and lights the candles in it. Although it is not Hanukkah, which normally falls near Christmas, we somehow feel it is appropriate to light it. I recall from the prayer book of the Reformed synagogues of Great Britain Hugo Grinn's account of a wartime Hanukkah and the lesson of faith. I did not learn this lesson about faith in a theological college, that came much later, but in a miserable little concentration camp in German Silesia, grotesquely called Liberos, Lovely Rose. It was the cold winter of 1944, and although we had nothing like calendars, my father, who was my fellow prisoner there, took me and some of our friends to a corner in our barrack. He announced that it was the eve of Hanukkah, produced a curious-shaped clay bowl, and began to light a wick immersed in his precious but now melted margarine ration. Before he could recite the blessing, I protested at this waste of food. He looked at me, then at the lamp, and finally said, "You and I have seen that it is possible to live up to 3 weeks without food. We once lived almost 3 days without water, but you cannot live properly for 3 minutes without hope." Please pass on this story.